Before Messi, before Cristiano Ronaldo, before football became a billion-dollar industry, there was Brazil, a nation that didn't simply win football matches, it changed football forever. But one question still remains: just how good was Brazil actually? In October 1894, Charles William Miller stepped off a ship in São Paulo carrying 2 leather footballs and a book of English rules. Around the same time, a Scottish worker named Thomas Donohoe organised matches on the dusty grounds of Rio's Bangu factory. Initially, this imported pastime belonged to the wealthy white elite, played behind closed gates. But British rules could not contain the rhythm of the streets. A brilliant mixed-heritage forward named Arthur Friedenreich emerged in the 19-teens using sudden fluid movements to bypass aggressive defenders. He became the nation's first true idol, proving that the sport belonged to everyone. When professionalization finally arrived in 1933, it merely formalized what the people had already decided. Brazil had taken an English game and given it a soul. That soul took shape in the peladas, the chaotic improvisational street games played on concrete, dirt, and the sloping sands of Rio de Janeiro. Where European football demanded structure, Brazilian youth found liberation. Scarcity of proper pitches meant playing in tight spaces on uneven ground with makeshift balls, turning physical limitations into a training ground for pure creativity. It was here that futsal became the ultimate technical classroom, demanding instant decisions and flawless ball control in microscopic spaces. This physical education merged with the syncopated rhythm of samba and the defensive deception of capoeira. From the neighborhoods of São Paulo to the shores of Pernambuco, children learned to treat the ball as an extension of their bodies, transforming football from a mere sport into an expressive, rhythmic art form. This rhythmic mastery materialized on the world stage through 2 contrasting figures, Pelé and Garrincha. While Pelé became the composed, majestic face of the global game, Garrincha played with an unpredictable, joyous spirit, using his bent legs to bewilder defenders with pure improvisation. Together, they transformed Brazil from a strong competitive team into a global obsession. The purest form of this style arrived in Mexico during the summer of 1970. Under the warm Aztec sun, a team featuring Pelé, Tostão, Gérson, Jairzinho, and Rivellino achieved collective perfection. They swept through the tournament, defeating Italy 4-1 in the final with a post-war record of nearly 3 goals per match. It remains widely celebrated as the greatest team ever assembled. While heavyweights like Italy, Argentina, and Germany focused on physical structure and tactical discipline, Brazil proved that victory could be an act of pure creation. From that moment on, the entire world chased the Brazilian standard of football as art. The golden standard of 1970 changed everything. Brazil's reputation was no longer a compliment. It became a non-negotiable demand. Winning alone was no longer enough. The world expected a masterpiece every 90 minutes. This burden found its most beautiful, tragic expression in 1982. Head coach Tele Santana assembled a team that rejected defensive compromise, choosing instead to play pure futebol arte. Led by the brilliant orchestrating Zico alongside Socrates and Falcao, this fearless attacking group moved with a joyous conviction. When Italy broke their hearts in Barcelona, the defeat did not diminish their legacy, it immortalized it. They proved that greatness is measured by the way a team makes people feel, far outlasting the trophies they lift. Yet the tragedy of that loss left a haunting question for future generations. How do you stay the greatest when the entire world expects perfection every time you step onto the pitch? The answer arrived in 1994, born from a harsh reality. The rest of the world had caught up. European systems had become too disciplined, too physical, and too organized for raw flair alone to conquer. Head coach Carlos Alberto Pereira recognized that survival demanded structure. He implemented a compact, defensive 4-4-2, trading absolute freedom for disciplined control. This tactical steel protected their natural style, shielding their creative energy. Up front, the formidable partnership of Romario and Bebeto provided the spark, turning structured play into lethal execution. When Brazil lifted the World Cup in Pasadena, they wrote an entirely new chapter. They proved they could master modern defensive rigor while retaining the artistic soul of Brazilian football. In the wake of that 1994 triumph, a teenager who had watched the tournament from the bench was already transforming into the most terrifying force in global football. Ronaldo Nazario did not just play the game, he played with a velocity and power that made his dominance feel entirely inevitable. He was Il Fenomeno, a spectacular talent, rewriting what was possible for a striker. Then the knees gave way. The devastating ruptures between 1999 and 2000 were not mere setbacks. They felt like a definitive collapse. For 3 years, a heavy doubt settled over Brazil as the world wondered if he would ever walk without a limp, let alone run. Yet his return at the 2002 World Cup was no symbolic gesture. It was a hard-earned conquest. Ronaldo shook off the physical torment to score 8 goals, including both in the final against Germany, securing Brazil's 5th world title. It stands as football's great redemption story, a moment that transcended the trophy itself. Ronaldo's place among the eternal legends is not built on a list of statistics, but on the raw, breathless joy of watching a genius reclaim his throne. A new wave of magic quickly captivated the globe, led by a man who played with a permanent smile. Ronaldinho treated the grandest stadiums like playgrounds, flipping the ball over defenders and inspiring millions of children to copy his backyard tricks. Yet while Ronaldinho defined infectious joy, Kaká offered a different kind of masterclass. Built on quiet elegance, explosive acceleration, and polished humility, Kaká sliced through elite defenses with a devastating, direct simplicity. Together, they proved that Brazilian greatness could be wildly expressive or beautifully serene, sustaining an era of pure dominance before the weight of expectation fell onto a single heir. Neymar da Silva Santos Jr. stepped into a spotlight that was already blinding. He inherited the iconic number 10 shirt, along with the collective memory of Pelé, Zico, and Ronaldinho. From his early days at Santos, his every dribble became a global commercial event, and his mistakes were dissected like national emergencies. His brilliance, defined by sudden shifts of pace and street-style audacity, existed alongside agonizing ankle injuries and fierce public scrutiny. He grew into a massive global brand, yet his legacy remains a complex struggle to carry the heavy expectation of an entire country. On July 8, 2014, that weight fractured completely in Belo Horizonte. The 7-1 semi-final defeat to Germany became a symbol of national collapse, shattering Brazil's sense of self. The sheer speed of the German onslaught silenced the stadium, forcing a painful question: had the great dynasty finally ended? While Germany's ruthless organization proved the value of systematic discipline, Brazil was left to reckon with a unique burden. Unlike other global powers, they are always judged against an aesthetic ideal, where winning without beauty is felt as a quiet tragedy. Yet the fertile soil of Brazilian football never stopped producing talent. A fresh wave of elite attackers and young leaders continues to rise, blending traditional street creativity with modern tactical structure. Carlo Ancelotti's arrival brought an institutional willingness to adapt, framing the future as a journey of genuine renewal. Subscribe to the channel for more football documentaries. In a modern game defined by systems and metrics, Brazil remains our ultimate reminder of what football is at its core. They didn't just win trophies. They gave us permission to play with soul, imagination, and beauty. They turned sport into art. Subscribe for more deep football stories.